the band with us and focus on God as, in a sense, our audience. Now, can I say this really clearly? It is possible to get a crowd singing when you do a concert performance. If you listen to any of the YouTube stuff of Billie Eilish or even Phil Wickham, the crowd are singing really well. In fact, Billie Eilish's crowd, when Bad Guy comes, they love going, duh. Yeah, they love that bit. Like, they sing really... In fact, the loudest congregational singing I've ever heard was from an Alanis Morissette concert in 1991, Jagged Little Pill tour. Like 15,000 people, most of them teenage girls, singing every little note and that she sang. It was incredible. Probably the most impressive congregational singing was 1985 Live Aid, Queen. Right? I just watched that live. And he went, "Hey-oh," and the crowd went, "Hey-oh." And it was amazing. It took the whole world by storm. You can get a crowd singing with a concert performance. You absolutely can. But is that the right choice for your context? Because understand this. This photograph, that is actually a Hillsong conference, I believe. Now, the word I would use for that is concert. Right? You can get a congregation singing, and it can be worshipful to God with a concert performance. Absolutely you can. But here's another photograph where music is being used. And the word I would use for that is campfire. Concert or campfire. So what I need you to do is to think about your context now. What I teach is not one size fits all. You need to decide for yourself, where does this needle land for us between concert and campfire? Because as I say, a concert can be worshipful and you can get a crowd singing with concert performance. But it's a lot easier with a campfire sing-along. So I've come up with some questions that I want you to ask yourselves to decide on what's the right context, for what is the right balance of concert to campfire for your context. I can't answer this for you. You need to answer this for yourself. All right? The first question I've come up with is your congregation naturally and rapturously passionate to worship God through songs? Because some people just are, more than others. And if you've got a congregation of people who are all wired that way, you can be quite a bit more concert-like. They'll still sing, they'll still engage. All right? In fact, a Bon Jovi fan will sing Living on a Prayer even after that ridiculous key change. In their car on their own. They'll scream the windows out of their car because they are passionate about that song and Bon Jovi. All right? So you can get your people singing. They need to be rapturously passionate to worship God through songs, even before you've played a note. The number two question I'd ask is, do you consider the congregation you lead to be very large? I'm not going to answer that for you, but I tell you what, the bigger your congregation, the more concert-like you can be and still have them singing. If you're 15 people in a living room and you're trying to put on a concert, it won't work, right? But the bigger your crowd, the more concert-like it can be. Bearing in mind, the more concert-like things you add, the more dangerous it gets for my heart. I start thinking people here to be impressed. All right? Number three, here's another question for you. Is your congregation led by a celebrity vocalist? Supported by pro-level instrumentalists and technicians? Are you Phil Wickham? Are you Jen Johnson? If you are, then you can be more concert-like. But if you're not, maybe you better lean a bit more campfire. Right? During the week, does the congregation listen to and enjoy the original artist versions of the songs they are asked to sing on Sunday? Some people do listen to a lot of Shine, watch Shine, or listen to a lot of Rima or Life. Some people have Spotify playlists of this sort of worship music and they just love it. They sing it all during the week. Some churches produce Spotify playlists and they ask their congregation to be listening to them during the week. If people are doing that and they love that sort of music, then you can be a bit more like the original artist concert performance hit single version. Make sense? The final question in this little series is there a high level of production for your services? Is the line between congregational singing and concert performance intentionally blurred? Now, I actually, a couple of years ago, got to sit down with the Life Church people, a big church. Where are they? Sort of northwest?
North, central and south and east.
Okay, anyway, I got to hang out with a couple of people, and I managed to get a couple of them on the Blessing Aotearoa video. And I showed them this graph. I said, what do you think of this? And they went, oh, we love that. We're intentionally, in our main room, we're intentionally concert performance every Sunday. Slamming people out of the park. That's the idea. But some people don't resonate that way. So we have this chapel where we've got about 300 people meeting every Sunday, and that's full tilt campfire. They're reading their room. I celebrate with them. You know, they're doing that intentionally. That's the idea. But does their context match your context? So I would suggest that most of us should be leaning more towards campfire. And even thinking about this church, Manukau City Baptist Church, this is a bigger church for the area, but I still would suggest that we need to be not full campfire, but we need to be aware of the campfire sing-along approach to help this congregation sing. So you've got to think about your room, your people, your sound system, your abilities of your singers and your instrumentalists, your technicians, and make choices. Now, just understand this. No full tilt campfire sing-along even has a bridge, does it? You know? As soon as you've added a bridge, you've leaned a little bit away from campfire. Okay? But I would suggest substance over style, authenticity over perfection. And I see a lot of churches, I think, falling for the trap of going, well, we've got to have backing tracks. You know, are you aware of backing tracks? It's like they buy all the stems of the original artist versions so that because our drummer's not that great, we're actually going to have the professional drummer playing. And because our keyboard player, we're going to have a keyboard player there, but we're going to mute them and we're going to listen to the track of the keyboard player. And we're going to play these songs as close to the original artist as we can. And I think, why? Are you trying to be who you're not? Now, Paul Common Trio used backing tracks. Sonic Flood used backing tracks. We felt like we had to because we were playing on the same bill as other bands who had backing tracks. And you've got to sound amazing. We were trying to perform for an audience. Trying to wow them. And we hoped it was to the glory of God. But I don't suggest that for your regular Sunday morning, usually mainly amateur volunteer musicians and singers. Make it simpler. Be a bit more just real about it. I strongly believe that what is way more engaging to a congregation is, this is us, we're doing our best. Better than, let's pretend we're in front of 20,000 people. Let's try hard to appear like we're better than we are. Don't fall for that trap. Be who you are. So the mixed message that I often see is this. A lot of church teams do this. They say, let's stand together. We're going to sing together. The band started playing an intro. We're going to project the words on the screen. But actually don't. Because the sound is concert-like, or the key is inappropriate for half the room, or we can't really quite tell how the song goes because the lead singer is embellishing the melody and making it their own. A lot of mixed messages. Are you with me on this? Mixed messages. I am saying if you want to perform for an audience, do that and do it to the glory of God. Or get your congregation to sing with you. Don't mix the messages. In fact, when I was growing up, sometimes the choir would do an anthem. You know, they've rehearsed probably for weeks or months to prepare this piece of music for us. And they go, this is not for you to sing. We're going to perform it for you. And then they get to have like different soloists and different harmonies and different parts and things going on. And it would point us towards the worth of God. Absolutely. But we just weren't supposed to sing it. In fact, if we tried, we would have ruined it. So there's a place for both. But just make sure you know which you're doing. and understand that the worship artists we see on Spotify, the Bethels and the Phil Wickhams and the Hillsongs and stuff, they are intentionally blurring the lines. That's their context. That's what they do. I can't judge their hearts. And I tell you what, they write us a lot of great songs. This is a woman named Brittany Batson. And I got asked a few years ago when I was still living in Nashville to form a band for this conference that was called The Objective. And it was in Nashville, which is known around not just America but other parts of the world as being Music City, USA. It's one of the cities to go to advance your music career, especially if you're a Christian artist. And The Objective was for unsigned artists. There were about 500, usually young people, but not always, but people who are all creative. They're all artists. And I was asked to form a worship band, excuse the rabbit fingers, to lead worship. All right? I knew what they meant. And I didn't try to correct them, but I just went. And I was very privileged to have Brittany Batson as one of the singers in the band. And I coached my team always on, we are here to invite the congregation to sing. And so Brittany knew when she was singing with me, she would have to sing it really straight and simple. But she is a soul sister. She can carve it up. Incredible. But she had no problem when guiding a congregation singing absolutely straight. But I decided we were going to sing Amazing Grace. Like there's like 18-year-old metal players and rappers, and there's all sorts of different people there. And I'm thinking, all right, what are we going to do here? And I said, hey, we're not going to sing verse 1 of Amazing Grace. Brittany, will you sing it for us? Sing it your way. And she sang it with all the vocal stuff, you know, and she held that room in raptures as she sang it, showing all the abilities that God had given her. And then when she finished verse 1, I asked the people to stand, and I'm absolutely convinced they sang verse 2 way better than they would have if I had them just sing from verse 1. And I think that me asking Brittany and her showing what she could do inspired those young artists to want to sing their own musicking to God. There is a place for musical performance. You just got to choose the right place, the right time. So what I'm asking for us is intentionality. I see a lot of church teams very unintentional, random about what they're doing with music on a Sunday. And I don't think it's possible to do what we're trying to do with that level of haphazard randomness. And can I be a little rude here? Sorry, Kiwis. Some of it's a bit Kiwi. She'll be right, whatever. I'm going to be suggesting something a bit different to that. I'm going to be asking you to intentionally invite the congregation to sing with you rather than listen to you perform for them. Be very intentional about that. And intentionally guiding the congregation to find their voice. Their voice is way more important than our voices. Yeah? And I'd ask you to intentionally make sung worship a higher priority than it is now. To have your congregation singing together is more important than you've allowed it to be right now. And it's going to take a bit more effort and planning. You might have to work a bit harder. And, you know, I think there's this really destructive thing that I feel like I keep bumping into. I think you need to reject the entitled volunteer mindset. What I call that is, I think there's this unspoken, unconscious thing of like, hey, you're lucky I'm playing bass for this church. If I'm late or didn't practice, you need to be happy with that because I'm a volunteer. That doesn't belong. And I don't think anyone says it as smarmy as that or intentionally destructive as that in the front of their heads, but it's kind of this little undercurrent, isn't it? Like, hey, we're all busy. You know, like, this is about priorities. Now, I can't make you change your priorities. I'm not trying to make you be professionals, but I'm trying to inspire you with this. If your church is singing well together, it'll be because you made some selfless choices and you made this a higher priority. You made it more important than it is now. And if you want your church to thrive and grow, this is one of the ways that we can ensure it. It's not the only thing, but a church congregation that's singing well together as an expression of worship, that's one of the indicators of a thriving, growing, healthy church. It's on you. It's on you. So, we need to be really intentional about our song selection. I'm going to dig deeper into this after lunch, but we need to be very intentional about our song selection. You know, which songs should be on our repertoire. And because I like a song is not a good enough reason. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. We have to think about our preparation. How are we preparing these songs? How intentional are we being about that? Are we sort of just letting it sort of flop together? Or are we intentionally making a sound that helps our congregation? How can we make the song ready for the team's personal practice? This is a big part of this. Because a lot of people aren't doing any personal practice. Thanks to those of you who do. And how, when we do come together to rehearse, how should our version of the song sound? We don't need to sound exactly like the original. We can't. We need to sound like we sound, but we should steal from those professionals as much as we can and get the good bits that are within our ability. And we need to be intentional about that song delivery. And the Sunday service, how can we best invite the congregation to sing this song with us? Now, just before we take our lunch break, and hopefully someone's going to explain to us how lunch might work. David, you might want that down here in a moment, because I'm pretty hungry. Anyone else? Good deal. Okay. This didn't really fit very easily into any of the modules, but I wanted to say this. You know, I actually think that on any given Sunday around the music, there's actually been 3 different leadership roles involved. Now, I'm not sure how it is for your church, but I've put this term in quotation marks, the worship leader, right? Like, you've heard me use that word differently. Like, the person who's the quote-unquote worship leader, that term is used. For me, that's the person who is probably a decent singer, and they're comfortable saying a few words before songs or in between songs, and they want to try and use those words in a way that encourages and directs these people to sing as an expression of worship to God. You know, I don't want to put all the bags of rocks. It's your job to usher people into the presence of God. I want people to be ushered into the presence of God. I do. I want people to experience God's presence, but I don't want to put that weight on this person. But that's a very important leadership role. But what I find happening over and over again in churches is the person who's a decent singer and capable of saying a few words between the songs, it's also assumed that they are the musical director, right? And to me, that is 2 different leadership roles. I happen to be a person who can do both of them, but not everyone is. I think if you are a person who's a good singer and comfortable to say those few words, be the person that guides the congregation to lead them to sing worshipfully, but you don't hear the difference between an A minor and an A, or can't hear that the drums are too loud, or can't tell that the song's not the right tempo, or, are you with me? You've got to have the support of a musical director who can spot those things and serve your vision for where you want to lead people through the songs you want to lead them with. But you need to be supported by a musical director. It might be the bass player. It might be someone else who can't sing, but they're the person who can pick up what's going on here and where there's too much clutter, or where we need a bit more oomph, or where we need, oh, excuse me, your A string's out of tune. You know, like, we need to have someone who can do that, a musical director. And that role needs to be assigned to a person. Everyone on the team needs to know that so-and-so is the musical director. It might be the same person as that first leadership role, but it may not. But there is another leadership role, which is the behind-the-scenes organisation. This sort of the person who's perhaps, they may not even be on the platform that Sunday, but they've maybe rostered the team, and they're curating the repertoire, and they're helping us organise all those things. So there are 3 different leadership roles. Who is doing those roles in your team for your church? They're really important. And I think that everyone needs to know who those 3 people are. Make sense? Great. So we're going to take a lunch break now, and David will tell us how that's going to work in a moment. But just know that this has been a lot more sort of theoretical, a lot more me talking up till lunchtime. But after lunch, we're going to get a lot more vocal, instrumental, technical, musical, all right? The real, like, what you can take away and have help you. That's the plan. So David might just, because I understand that there is a lunch that some people can take part in here. Is that right? David's going to explain maybe also.